G'day students. Today we're looking at flowcharts again, but what's a little bit different about today's work is we're going to be looking at working backwards through a flowchart. And probably the easiest way to show that is just to move right into it. Alright, so have a look at these flowcharts. Now they're a little bit different from what you did the other day. And what's different about them is, well, this first one's pretty straightforward. So 6 8s are 48. That's exactly the skill you were using yesterday. But if you have a look at 6b here, what we've got to ask ourselves is, what number times 4 would equal 36? So we need to do a little bit of detective work, and we need to work backwards. So what number times 4 does equal 36? I will do this one for you. We're looking for 9. 9 times 4 is 36, and then we're going to subtract 7 from that number to give us 20. It's that dead spot on my screen again. 29. Alright, so pause the video and have a go at the rest of the questions yourself. And again, pause the video and check your answers. Alright, these flowcharts are arranged completely in reverse. So you can see here we have, where's my pointer? We have 7 plus 2 is 9. 9 take 5 will give us 4. Alright, so pause the video and get some practice working backwards through these flowcharts. And again, hit pause and check your answers. Alright, and now you're going to come across a fancy word, and the fancy word is inverse. And as far as you're concerned right now, it's basically, you can think of it like the opposite. So for each of these flowcharts, you need to answer these questions. They all start with the number 12 here. We start with the number 12, and the first question is, what operation is performed on 12 to get the final result? Well, on the first one, we add 3 to get 15. Our second question says, to go from the final result back to 12, what operation is performed to undo the original operation? Well, to undo adding 3, we take away 3. The third part of the question says, use your answers to parts 1 and 2 to complete this sentence. The inverse operation to blank is blank. Well, for part A, the inverse operation to adding is subtracting. Alright, so what I'd like you to do is pause the video and go through those 3 questions for B, C, and D. Now you can check your answers. So B, C, and D. And what I want to highlight here is the inverse operation to multiplying was dividing. The inverse operation to dividing was multiplying. And up here, the inverse of addition is subtraction, which is another way of saying the way to undo addition is to subtract. And here, the way to undo subtraction is to add. So pause the video and just have a read through those answers. All right, now what I want you to do is summarize your knowledge with this question. So I want you to write the inverse operation to each of these. I'm going to do the first one for you so you know what the question means. So the inverse operation to adding 2 is subtracting 2. All right, pause the video and off you go. Now again, pause the video and run through that to check your answers. You should have got multiply by 6 is divide by 6. Divide by 5 is times 5. The inverse of subtraction is addition. Multiplication is division. And the inverse of addition should give us subtraction. All right, so we're going to sum this up with some word problems now. To undo a step where you have added, then you, which one? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Pause the video and go through those. And check your answers. To undo a step where you've added, then you should subtract. To undo a step where you have subtracted, you should add. Where you multiplied, you should divide. And where you divided, of course, you should multiply. All right, so have a look at these flowcharts. Now you'll see for the first time you've got flowcharts which are labeled with operations in both directions. So I'm going to do this first one for you. So 3 times 4, that's going to give us 12. Take 2 is 10. Now these are our forward operations. Now the inverse of subtracting 2 is adding 2. And the inverse of multiplying by 4 is dividing by 4. Now we're going to check that that's true. So 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So far so good. 12 take 2 is 10, and 10 plus 2 is 12. So that's how you can check your answers as you go. So pause the video and fill in the rest of these flowcharts. All right, again, pause the video and your answers should look like this. All right, this is a little bit more practice along the same lines, but a bit trickier because there's more blank squares. But your skills should be up to this by now. You need to do some working backwards as well as forwards. And you need to be able to fill in the inverse operations here where they're blank. So pause the video. And check your answers. Pause the video now and check those operations and numbers against what you've got in your book. Alright, so these problems again use the same skills, but they're a bit bigger and more complicated. So you're expanding your skill base. So pause the video and try these ones. And check your answers against what you see in front of you. Again, pause the video. Alright, now we're going to start putting all these skills together to be able to solve some problems. And this example shows us how to do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that skill of working in reverse, which you now see is sometimes called backtracking, to find a mystery number. So here's our question. Draw a flowchart and use backtracking to find the mystery number in this description. And the description is this. A mystery number is multiplied by 3 and then has 5 subtracted from it to get a final result of 19. Okay, and the way to solve this problem is we draw out a blank flowchart, and the only number that we know is 19. We know we finish with number 19. And we know that whatever our mystery number was, that we multiplied it by 3, and then we took away 5. Once you've got that drawn out, then all you need to do is use the skills you used on the previous problems to fill in the blanks. So the inverse operation of taking away 5 is adding 5. So we can do that. The inverse operation of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. So we can do that. And we find that our mystery number is 8. So pause the video and take some time to read through this example. And then it's your turn. So for each of these problems, you need to write out what you know and then start to fill in the blanks using backtracking and your inverse operations. So just pause the video now. Alrighty, and this is what your charts should look like. Pause the video, check your answers, make sure you're tracking correctly. If there's anything that doesn't match up, just take the time to go through and see what they've done and make sure you know how to do it for next time. And that's the end of the lesson. So at this point, you should know what an inverse operation is. And you should know what the inverse operations are for add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Just think for a moment, do you? What is the inverse of adding? What is the inverse of subtracting? What is the inverse of multiplying? What is the inverse of dividing? And using these skills, you should be able to backtrack through a flowchart to find the starting number. If you can do all of these things, that's fantastic. If there's anything you're feeling a little bit less confident on, you can flip back through the slides and just do a little bit more work on that skill.